Monday, time for
memes.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
don't get cake on your velvet cape. Here are
Meme day.
Mondays.
Welcome back, players. I'm Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Weiss Cat, and welcome to another Meme Deck Monday. So, with Fate Apocrypha now hitting the scene, I'm looking to pick up some SPs of my favorite girl from the set, Fran. Now, she's blue, and that being the case, it reminded me of some other blue Fate cards from my backpack. You can't play Apocrypha with any of the other Fate sets, but you can play Fate Zero and Unlimited Bladeworks 1 and 2 together, and that's just what one of my favorite meme decks happens to do. So today we're going to look at a classic homebrew blue meme deck, Mono Blue Masters. Players, do you like drawing cards? Do you like level 0s that draw you cards? Do you like brainstormers that draw you cards? Do you like level 1 combos that draw you cards? Do you like level 3s that draw cards? Heck, how about climaxes that draw cards? Well, when you pick up this deck, you'll definitely feel like the master of drawing. It's almost a meme in itself how many cards you get to draw in this deck. But this deck isn't just about that. Master is a trait in the Fate expansions that doesn't get too much attention next to Servant or Weapon, which are the main two. But Master has some really awesome trait interactions, and it appears in some hilarious cards. I built this deck to emphasize these often overlooked combos and awesome cards. But it didn't actually start out like that. When I was building this deck, it actually started out as me trying to build a shell for the Illya Berserker deck, the most popular and arguably only blue Fate deck. But when I was looking at some of the blue card choices, I discovered some interplay I hadn't really seen anyone touch before, so I went back to the drawing board and ended up removing a lot of the Berserker support. Sorry Heracles, I still love you in Fate Grand Order. And I added something a little different. Caster. So how does Caster fit into the picture? Well, there's something really cool about Caster. Most of her cards have both the Master and the Servant trait, and as we jump into the deck, we'll see how this ends up creating a really cool angle for blue Fate. So at first glance, there's some very odd bedfellows here. The main cast of this deck is Illya, Caster, and Shirou? Not exactly the first trio you'd imagine when you think about Fate. So what does it look like when they work together? Well, let's find out. Starting at level 0, this is actually where Shirou makes all of his appearances. This is a mono blue deck for all intents and purposes, so there's no need to ever clock for yellow. But still, yellow does offer us some really cool master level 0s in the form of Shirou, so let's have a look at them. Starting with Battle After School Shirou, we have a
3,000
base that mills the top card of your deck when it enters the stage. If it's a climax, put Shirou in your stock. If not, he gets plus 1500 until end of turn. So you know, that's pretty good. A lot of characters that miss their top checks either make you take damage or rest themselves, but Shirou gives you a stock even if you fail. You can even use this as a soft chop checker. And if he gets the power, he can even match some level 1s and run over some level 1 reversers. An excellent level 0 to start off this deck tech. Shirou does have one more card here, but it's in the back. So first we'll talk about Illya. Illya makes up a decent chunk of our level 0, and the first card we'll check out is another level 0 4 of Silver Thread Elgin Lead Illya. Say that 4 times fast. Silver Illya is an Akatsuki for Masters. Drop 1, top check up to 4, then choose 1, add to your hand, and then drop the rest. It's like we always say, players, Akatsukis are never bad. Now most of Fate is Servant and Weapon, so Illya misses a fair bit of the set. But this deck is all Masters, so he's a hard Akatsuki and an amazing component for us. So remember how we said this deck is all about drawing cards? Well, after looking at these front row characters, it's time to hop on the meme train. Signal to Commence Battle Illya is another top checker, but if she reveals a Master or Servant, you can add it to your hand and pitch 1. Then, when she comes in, you can pay 1 stock and clock yourself to draw. You can layer these triggers in any order you want, and you can combine them with our level 0 Shirou to top check for you. It makes for some really cool plays that can get you some serious advantage. She's 1k base, but when she comes into play, she's already done her job. Another card that punches its way into our toolbox is Further Attack Kazuki. When he comes in, he clock bonds for Mage from the Age of Myths Caster, which is one of our level 1s, and then he has an ability, Pay 1, Draw 1, Pitch 1, which can be used any amount of times you want. 500 power? Not really a big deal if you consider the major advantage he can generate, a repeatable draw and a clock bond rolled into 1. Yo dog, I heard you liked cards. Alright, it's getting a little memey in here, so let's move to the back row. There's only 2 characters, so let's examine them. Shirou makes his final appearance here with an addition that might surprise you. Resolution to Fight Together Shirou can have you pay 2 stock and grab a level 1 Shirou, but naturally, we don't run that here. We include Resolution Shirou because he gives all your other masters Clock Encore. It means that every card in your deck has Clock Encore printed on them, which makes them a lot harder to get rid of if you can imagine that. So of course we run him. And as Shirou leaves the stage, Caster enters with the first card we've seen featuring her. A tap 2 draw Brainstormer that boosts the center middle by 500. By most standards, this isn't an amazing Brainstormer, but it still draws cards and has the Master trait. And at least one Brainstormer is kind of mandatory for most decks, so here's ours. And that brings us to the end of the level 0. Like I said, it's getting a little memey in here. 4 of these level 0s filter and draw cards for you, which is kind of insane. A lot of them aren't too big or powerful, but they might mill out half your deck before you hit level 1. And as soon as you do, you'll probably refresh your deck instantly. Because check this out, we're running 6 events. If you ever wanted to play a deck that filtered and searched 3 times or more per turn, this will be it. But hold on, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see what exactly we'll be looking for moving into level 1. First up, we have Snow Fairy Illya. She's the deck's main advantage combo, and she climaxes with a blue stock soul. When Snow Fairy Illya attacks with official contract in your climax zone, and you have 4 or more other characters, you may draw a card. Simple and straightforward, on attack draw. Not bad at all. Now Snow Fairy is only 5k base, but we have a lot of ways to keep her around, and one of them of course is Resolution Shirou, which gives her Clock Encore. And man, is it annoying to combo with her, draw another climax, encore your Snow Fairies, and do it all again. Draw for ages. So Illya is our main combo here, but we can't just run 4 of her and call it a day. In fact, we have something that adds to her staying power by a lot. Remember how Kazuki bonds for Caster? Well, this is it. Mage from the Age of Myths Caster is a level 1/0 with a backup ability while she's on the stage. If you pay 1 and put her in the waiting room, you can give a character being front attacked plus 2500 until the end of turn. So it's a 1-stock 2500 backup that doesn't cost you a card. You can use her and make your Illyas big enough to survive a lot of front attacks. Or, if you want, you can use a really cool interaction here. Since Caster is a master, if you have Shirou out, you can actually Clock Encore her if you use this ability, which means that she's a reusable backup. That can make for some pretty sick nasty plays that'll really throw your opponent off his game. And keep in mind, you can use this from the back row too. Overall, for this deck's only other level 1, this card adds some interesting flavor. But that's not the end of our level 1. Players, we have 6 more cards. This might be the most event-heavy deck we'll ever review, so let's take a look at why. Flames of Purgatory. Now here's a really cool card you probably won't see in any other deck. It was actually the main inspiration for this whole deck when I took it back to the drawing board. So what is it? Remember Forest of Giant Trees from our Titan deck tech? Well, it's kind of like that. Search your deck for up to 1 Master and up to 1 Servant, then discard a card and put this card into your clock. So it's a 2 tutor filter like Forest of Giant Trees, but this is very specific. You can't search for more than 1 Master or more than 1 Servant.
Or can you?
And this, players, is the beauty of the deck. Every card in it is a Master, but there are several that have both the Master and Servant traits. All of our level 3, all of our level 2, half our level 1, and several of our level 0s all have both traits. It means that in this deck, Flames of Purgatory is almost as good as Forest of Giant Trees and Blue Titan, which is pretty intense. Because Caster's cards all double up on that trait, and so does our level 3 Berserker, we have a lot of really cool options on how to use this tutor. There are very few combinations of cards you can't search out with it, so this is an awesome enabler for this deck, and I'm super glad this card was able to find a home. Alright, now for the second event in this deck. Encounter on a Rainy Day is a typical Akatsuki event. You play it, top check 4, then add a blue character. It hits everything in the deck except for your level 0 Shirou's, so it's a hard tutor. Now, 6 events may seem like a lot, but if you look at the other blue Masters in the Fate sets at level 1, there aren't too many others that fit this deck very well, so we'd rather search for the ones that work for us, rather than forcing ones that don't. Okay, that's our level 1. 8 characters and 6 events. The idea here is to play as many Snow Fairies as you can and keep them alive as long as possible with their climax combo. If by now you haven't found an official contract, then that's sour grapes. But just swing with characters and wait. It'll show up eventually. Now, moving into level 2, we have another short one. The only character here is Tactician Caster. She gives all your Masters in front of her plus 1k and hand encore. Not too shabby. And then she has a change ability. At the beginning of your draw step, you can pay 1 and put her into the waiting room. Then put a card called Heroic Spirit Caster on the stage where she was. Now, Heroic Spirit Caster allows you to top check X, where X is characters, so using the hand encore function before you change into your next draw step might not be a bad idea. But that's about the extent of this level 2's use and strategy, so let's look at the level 3. Of course, a good place to start is the level 3 Caster. We know she top checks, but what else does she do? Well, she's actually a very expensive restander. Pay 4 stock and pitch 2. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, stand this card. So 2 things here. First, there are no power boosts here, so you're looking at 11k with a climax. And second, that's extremely expensive for a restand. But she also top checks and changes for 1. And like all casters, she's both a master and a servant. So while you might not play her every game or restand with her every day, she adds a ton of flexibility. And of course, being a hard top checker, she can dig for your second climax combo, which brings us to our last card. Relationship of Trust, Illya, and Berserker. Now this is a really cool card for us because it's both master and servant. So what does it do? First, it gets plus 1k for every Illya in the back row. Now we do run a good amount of Illya, but none of them are really back row characters, but if you need some extra power, it certainly wouldn't hurt just to lay some down. Second, like so many other cards in the deck, this one draws some for you. Draw 2, pitch 1, the standard level 3 fair. And then it has a climax combo with Encounter and Bond. When this card attacks with E and B in the climax zone, put the top 5 cards of your deck into your waiting room. Then deal X damage to your opponent where X's climax is milled this way. So it's a cool and free damage brainstorm +1. And the free part is the really big draw, no pun intended. It also happens before the backup phase, so stopping the damage will be tough. And it also digs for its own climax, which is super nice. All in all, Illya and Berserker give us a great way to finish the game that's totally in theme with our memes. So that's our Mono Blue Masters meme deck. Now that we've seen the deck list, well, what do we do with it? What else though? We draw cards. Now, even starting at turn 0, you're looking very hard for your level 1 climax combo. I'd recommend pitching anything in your opener that isn't Snow Fairy or Official Contract. The deck has a lot of level 0s, so don't worry about throwing some out. Use all your filters to draw as many cards as you can, and make sure to use your abilities with care to make sure you don't catch any climaxes in your stock. Because if they get buried in there, it'll be tough to get them out, but you do want to keep a lot of cards in your stock, because one of the great advantages in this deck is it can keep so much flack in your hand, stock, and on the field, so that when you do refresh on turn 3, you'll be super compressed. Play your level 1 combo when you hit it, and just go. Don't worry if you're drawing over hand capacity, it's a great way to discard stray climaxes, and if you can't find Snow Fairies, you have 6 events to help you out. Set up for level 2 by searching out the magic combination of 1 Snow Fairy and 1 Tactician Caster, with Flames of Purgatory. And of course, if you can, make sure you have a way to keep your Illyas alive if need be. The rest of the deck is waiting until level 3, going through your deck again and again, building up hand, stock, and compression. Remember, you can get rid of your whole deck pretty much on command, so if you find yourself low on climaxes, just play some events. Build enough stock to play your ideal field of 2 Berserkers and 1 Caster, or just 3 Berserkers. Remember, if you do use Caster, you'll need to start your attack phase with at least 1 stock in order to restand. Other than that, use the tips and tricks we talked about in the card review, like recurring the Caster backup, top checking for climaxes, and taking full advantage of the awesome trait abilities the deck has. And have fun with the deck if you try it out. Just relish in the fact that you can draw 10 cards a turn and abort your entire deck every cycle. Don't worry if you deal like 7 damage to yourself in a turn. Well, okay, maybe be a little careful with that. Anyway, players, I just wanted to give this deck a quick showcase because while it's a meme deck, it also plays pretty differently than a lot of others. If you really like to dirtle and do 1,000 things on your turn, I'd recommend meming on someone with this Masters deck. Give it a shot, or at least a watch. Soon, we'll have a game up for this meme deck, and it should be pretty spicy, so keep a lookout for that. And keep your eyes on your YouTube feed for more Weiss content. Like I said, I've got some pretty cool stuff planned as we approach the big holiday month with several exciting new sets coming out, maybe even a set review or a guest commentary. Who knows? Well, the only way to find out is to keep on watching. And thanks for doing just that, players. Thanks for watching. Peace.